It's a brief video just to introduce the Nokia 235 brick phone that's just been released. I didn't really find much information on the internet other than press releases and some other kind of screenshots and some really unhelpful disclosures on the Nokia website. So I thought it might be helpful to provide a bit of an introduction for parents who might be looking at this phone being the first phone that their child receives. I've got an 11-year-old who is desperate to have some form of connection. We started with a watch that was for specifically children that only did selected phone calls and texts, but you had to use an app on the parents' phone, which made it very difficult for them to contact some people, and the app doesn't always work. And now they're getting close to secondary school and will be getting themselves to school and from school and will want to go play with their friends and everything, and thought that it might be useful to have them with a connected device. But with all of the research that's been mounting over the last few years, it was very clear that we didn't want to start off with a smartphone and just unlocking the internet in their pocket. So I spent a bit of time trying to find what feature phones or dumb phones or brick phones would be most appropriate, which would enable the basics, but also have, a limited bit of more functionality to it, to just allow them to listen to some music and have a torch. I think my ideal smart feature phone for a child would be one that allows them to listen to music. I mean, ideally it would have connections to Spotify or something rather than MP3s, but we take what you get, and really just signal on it. One would think that this would be a good and burgeoning market for parents. However, all of these companies that are designing what they either just call feature phones, which they assume is for adults looking to digital detox, or super premium phones, which you pay 4 times as much for the phone for than what is actually needed, like a punked phone or a light phone, which aren't marketed towards children. They're fragile devices, they're expensive, and they don't do anything more than a feature phone anyway. So why this kind of gap in the market isn't being filled by people who just want to make sure that they can have family messaging groups, maps, and music. That's really all that would be desired on top of texting and phoning. You can't have that. So I've gone with this Nokia phone, which was just released last week. If you've come for unboxing, this is not the video for you because I don't have the time of day. Here's a box. It was inside of it. This is the phone itself, which looks pretty modern. I've already taken the back bit off to put the battery in, which is the only thing that you have to do. Removable battery, so when it dies, you can just replace it. This is just plastic. It's fairly durable, or at least when it breaks, it's fairly easy to replace. For many people who are probably watching this, you've already had a phone like this in your life. They're not wildly different from what you might have had when you were a teenager yourself. So to turn it on, you just press the power button. What's unusual is that for all of the years that have happened since I was a teenager, the technology hasn't really jumped in leaps and bounds. I've gone with this one for a couple of reasons. One of which, it's USB-C, so it's a modern port, at least going into it. You don't have anything that's unique that the child needs to have, so we don't have to worry about finding different things. It also has a 2-megapixel camera on the back, because I think that is one of the other things that children might like. Outside of that, once you actually get inside, one of the many annoying things about any feature phone that's in this market at the moment is they put a bunch of tat on it that you can't get rid of, some of which doesn't even work. So why they even put this in the market, I don't know. But you've got the standard bits for on call logs and messages. The very first thing that I did when I got it, which is before my child is getting this at the moment, was to go into settings. And within settings, you have to be able to change this really audible clicking on every single button that you press. So with that, you have to go into the personalization and themes. Nope, sorry, that's not the right one. It's not even the welcome note. It is down under profiles in the settings. So again, it's not exactly intuitive. And then once you're inside of the profiles one, you've got to click the little button here, which then allows you to edit the settings of that particular profile to come down, and then you want to adjust the volume. So when you get it out of the box, down here under ketone, in their infinite wisdom, they have it on like this, which means that when you're going through everything, you've got this really stupid sound. So I don't know what type of focus group they used when they pulled this together, but it is not what I would have selected by any means, either in the sound or that is just constantly on this. So you have to go into the profiles, into the adjust settings, go down to ketone and put that right down to 0 if you're any sensible person, because otherwise your child is, well, you're just going to hear this in your house the whole time. So not exactly my cup of tea on that. But other than that, I then spend a bunch of time just moving the apps around. You can't delete them. They're here, and some of them don't even work, and they're pointless, and I wouldn't want them on anyway. I don't mind Snake, as like the one game that they advertise on it too. But as you kind of go down here, you can see that there's not just Snake, but then all these other little icons. But all these icons are little games that they buy. So you click on it, it says, well, you can buy it, or you can try it for a few things. The way that they buy it seems to be through the network as well, because it won't let me do it without a SIM card in there, which means I'm probably going to be getting bills or whatever. So it's just talking to the kid about saying, don't do that. But it's annoying that you just can't delete it. One of the other things that you can't delete, which comes on it, is Facebook. It doesn't even work in the UK, where I live right now. It only works in other markets. So when you click on it, it just says, please try again. The same thing with the web browser. Now, I don't want either of these things on the device. I don't mind that they don't work. It's just a bit stupid that you can't get rid of them. Again, whatever phone company, you could probably do it to a Kickstarter and make a phone to get rid of this nonsense. But that's all there. Outside of that, of the things that are actually useful, you've got messages. Now for this, I needed to turn on T9. And again, turning on T9 was not as straightforward as one might expect. So you start and you're just in there. It's called predictive text on here rather than T9, as you might know it. Again, you have to go into the settings to change it. And then once it's there, you can then show the child how to enter the world of T9 as well. Entering their contact details are all there. Camera works okay. It's about what you would expect it to be. So you turn it on. Hello, there's a camera. It'll save it. You can put an SD card, a mini SD card in the back, as you'd like. Music is, again, where you can put music on for an SD card. There's Bluetooth on this as well. So if they have Bluetooth headsets, they can use that. But there's also a headphone jack up at the top, should they wish to go into that. Similarly, you've got radio here too. With radio, it scans, it works even without having a headset in or Bluetooth, but if you can have that in, that works as well. To turn it off though, you've got to be inside of the app and then go to close radio. Otherwise, it's just going to stay on even when you turn the screen off, which is desired, but you just have to know to go in there in terms of turning it off. You then have your basics of an alarm clock and what they call extras, and the extras are all the useful things that I think are actually great to have on the phone and good for them. The timer, world clock, unit conversions, calculator, calendar, and even a torch. So, you know, as far as just a feature phone goes, I think it ticks all the boxes. These little annoyances around having the extra gaming apps that you can't even, I mean, you can't get rid of them, and it looks like it's going to try to charge it through your mobile network, is bizarre. And again, for an adult, it's just annoying. For a kid, it's going to be soul destroying for them to get a phone where they're like, I've got all this stuff and I just can't use it. And this is exactly why I didn't want to get them a smartphone. Is it not that I couldn't put controls on what they could install, but it's the constant asking that you'll have of, why can't I have this app? Why can't I download this? All my friends are on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have it, and if you have a device that's not capable of doing it, those questions don't come up. You might still have the bigger ones of wanting to have a smartphone and everything else, but hopefully with, you know, society's acceptance that these aren't the things to give children under the age of 14, 16, there'll be a better trend. And having just decent phones that cover the basics, allow them to talk to their friends, not in social media, just in terms of having, you know, if you've got a class messaging app or something where they're sharing homework and other updates from the school, they should be able to access that. That seems fine. I know that that's even too much for some people. I'm not as opposed to that. Whereas virtually everything else, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all those, that's what I'm trying to avoid. So having a simple phone that allows them to be connected when they want to be connected. Having a device that adults are aiming for just because they want to do a digital detox, why would you give your children something that you're knowingly is going to create challenges for their cognitive development at such a sensitive part of their growth? So having a good phone, yes, they'll be out, they'll be doing things. They should have something that, they can talk to their friends and schedule things with their friends directly without having to go through us every single time. I don't see why you need to have everything else thrown in with it. So just having a feature phone, it's okay. This phone seems fine. It's going to do the job. The battery will last. It's 4G, USB-C, Bluetooth, and we'll cover the basics. They'll get frustrated on the keyboard side of things, but that's kind of the point, is that you don't have long conversations in text messages. And I could tell that to adults as well as kids, and at least for kids to get used to, you use your phone just to achieve a particular task. It isn't the thing that you live in. And this phone does enough for it right now, at least for what's available in the UK right today. This is what seemed to tick most of the boxes. There's a Doro phone as well, which I looked at, which was okay. The problem with that one mostly is that they target everything at the elderly for it. So even though it might do the basics, they're really missing a trick in saying this is for old phone people rather than youth. Because if you want to kind of pigeonhole somebody, at least give them something funky. The colors on this is nice. It's got a camera. It has other things that will be useful, and it's not saying this is for people who don't know how to use phones. So they're marketing, at least of my generation, of this is how you get a digital detox. Sometimes I see what they're going for, but it's a lot more difficult, I think, to convince somebody to swap out their SIM cards after work and on the weekends than it is to just say there's a whole generation of children that shouldn't be on smartphones, and having a viable alternative that's functional, that has, at least the minimum levels of technology that I think people would have, some FOMO on with their friends, which is basically texting and cameras. That's it. Don't throw all the other stuff on. And it'll be great. But, when you've got a kid who's got a kid's smartwatch, or not smartwatch, just phone watch, and they outgrow it, and they don't want to wear it anymore, they just stick it in their pocket all the time. It's basically, why not just have a phone in that case, but have a phone that at least satisfy what their biggest desire is, which is to connect with their friends, and doing so in a safer way that's not on social media and for the world to see, and everything else just works. So anyway, that's this phone. Apologies for not doing a whole unboxing thing for those people who have that sort of fetish, but that's not my gig. It's just straightforward. Here it is. And obviously I'm not paid to do this because I've been quite critical of the phone too. I'm just trying to provide tips for other parents that haven't gone down the smartphone path, or are looking at other phones and just wondering what's out there. And this one hasn't really had any type of in-depth look at it. There's not much to it, but hopefully that covers some good grounds for you.